Vin Diesel just posted something that either means the Fast and Furious saga finally has its ending figured out, or means nothing at all, depending on how many times this franchise has already burned you. Within the last day or two, he put up an Instagram post claiming he just finished reading the newest draft of the Fast Forever script and calling it the best script he's read in decades, adding that he's still emotional over it. He tied that post to the news that the original 2001 movie is heading back into theaters nationwide on August 21st to mark its 25th anniversary, and told fans that once March 17th, 2028 finally rolls around, they'll be grateful they caught the first film again on the big screen this summer. It's a great piece of marketing. It's also, if you've followed this project for the last 3 years, exactly the kind of statement that should make you raise an eyebrow before you get excited. Diesel has earned that skepticism. He floated an April 2025 release at one point. Director Louis Leterrier mentioned 2026 in a separate interview. Back in 2024, Diesel showed up at a Fuel Fest car culture rally alongside Tyrese Gibson and teased April 2027 instead. None of those dates held. By October 2025, the Wall Street Journal was reporting the movie didn't even have an approved script. No actor had a signed deal, and Universal was pushing to slash the budget hard after Fast X underperformed relative to what it actually cost. 2 months after that, in December 2025, Diesel himself admitted production had been delayed indefinitely. Then, barely a month later, in January 2026, Universal suddenly revealed the finished title Fast Forever and locked in March 17th, 2028 as the release date, the longest gap between mainline entries in the franchise's entire history. Diesel marked the reveal with an old photo of himself and Paul Walker from the very first movie, Walker handing him a car key, with a caption about legacy lasting forever. It's worth sitting with that title choice for a second too. A franchise that genuinely planned to end on a note of closure probably wouldn't pick a title that literally means it never stops. So where does the actual script stand right now? Christina Hodson and Oren Uziel were brought on to write it back in April 2023, the same month Leterrier was confirmed to direct. They were off the project by June 2024, replaced by Zach Dean, the writer behind The Tomorrow War. Aaron Rabin, who wrote Nobody 2, did a later pass on top of Dean's draft. And this past March, Universal brought in Michael Leslie to take yet another crack at it. Leslie isn't a random hire. He co-wrote the 2016 Assassin's Creed movie, he wrote both Hunger Games prequels, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Sunrise on the Reaping, he wrote the most recent Now You See Me sequel, he did a modern take on Hamlet with Riz Ahmed, and he's attached to write Marvel's X-Men reboot. Depending on how far back you want to count, he's either the 5th or 6th name to touch this specific script since 2023. It's his draft that Diesel is now calling the best thing he's read in decades, and reportedly some actors have wanted to actually see finished pages before agreeing to sign back on, which tells you a lot about how much trust this production has burned through. As of right now, Fast Forever still has not started filming. Given that Fast X only needed around 13 months of shooting before it hit theaters, Universal likely has until late 2026 or early 2027 to actually get cameras rolling if March 2028 is going to hold. Now, why is the budget such a headache in the first place? Fast X reportedly cost somewhere around $350 million once marketing and reshoots got factored in, with some estimates pushing closer to $400 million, and it only pulled in about $705 million worldwide. That's a razor-thin margin for a movie that size. Compare that to Furious 7, which cost roughly $250 million and made $1.5 billion. That gap is basically the entire reason this finale has been stuck in limbo for 3 years, and reports suggest Universal wants to cap the new budget somewhere around $200 million, which is a strange number for a movie meant to close out a franchise that's earned $7 billion across 25 years. Alan Ritchson, who plays the agent Amy's, actually addressed this head-on during a recent appearance on the Happy Sad Confused podcast. He said he's genuinely part of the ongoing conversations about the project, that filmmaking at this scale has simply become too expensive, and that everyone involved is trying to find a more efficient way to shoot movies like this while still honoring how massive this world has become. He was blunt about how hard the problem is, but he ended optimistic, saying he still believes another one is coming and that it'll be great once the bigger issues get solved. Jason Momoa struck a similar note earlier this summer, talking to IO9, saying the delay sucks, that he's heard production is actually moving, and that he's pretty confident he'll be back in the movie whenever it happens. Here's where things get more personal. Diesel has said that when Universal first pushed him for an earlier finale date, he only agreed under 3 conditions: bringing the franchise back to Los Angeles, returning to genuine car culture and street racing instead of another globe-trotting spy plot, and getting Dom back on screen with Brian O'Connor. Universal apparently said yes to all 3. The Los Angeles piece carries some real weight since Diesel has talked about wanting to shoot there specifically to help the local economy recover after this year's wildfires. He's also floated producing a new short film in the spirit of Los Bandoleros, the one that originally bridged the first movie and Fast 5, this time meant to connect Fast X directly to Fast Forever. Brian's return is the detail fans care about more than almost anything else. Diesel confirmed on stage back in June 2025 that Brian would be part of the finale, and Jordana Brewster has since backed that up publicly. But back in June, TMZ caught up with Tyrese Gibson and Cody Walker near Universal Studios ahead of this year's Fuel Fest, and the second a question about Brian's return came up, Tyrese cut Cody off almost instantly, said they couldn't get into it, and practically hustled him away from the cameras. Coming from 2 people that close to Paul Walker's memory, that kind of dodge reads a lot more like they're protecting something real than like there's nothing there. If it does happen, Furious 7 already built the blueprint, blending around 350 shots of CGI archival footage, and both of Walker's real brothers, Cody and Caleb, standing in for him after his death in 2013. Whatever combination of that old toolkit plus newer AI tools gets used this time, the emotional risk is real because Furious 7 already gave Brian one of the most genuinely moving send-offs in modern blockbuster history, and going back to that, well, only works if Walker's actual family is fully on board rather than it feeling like the studio cashing in on a dead actor's likeness. On casting, the confirmed returnees include Diesel himself, Michelle Rodriguez as Letty, Jordana Brewster as Mia, Tyrese as Roman, and Ludacris as Tej. Gal Gadot's Giselle is expected back given how Fast X set that up. Sung Kang's Han and Natalie Emanuel's Ramsey are real question marks, since both characters were literally on the plane that got shot out of the sky, and the franchise hasn't clarified either fate. Dwayne Johnson returning as Hobbs is close to locked in, both because of his own Fast X cameo, and because he and Diesel have reportedly patched up years of public tension. Jason Statham is reportedly signed for at least a couple more appearances as Deckard Shaw, Charlize Theron's Cypher is expected to factor in again, and Leo Abello Perry is set to return as Little B. Then there's the genuinely strange one. Back in December 2025, Diesel posted a photo of himself with Cristiano Ronaldo, saying flat out that a role had been written for him, and Tyrese followed up with his own post welcoming Ronaldo to the family. Neither Ronaldo nor Universal has confirmed anything since. Diesel has a real history of dropping casting bombshells that never actually land. He previously floated Robert Downey Jr. as a foil for Dom, and Michelle Rodriguez once publicly said she wished for Matt Damon, so file this one under fun but unverified for now. Fast X ended about as violently as this franchise ever has. Dom and his son barely survive driving down the face of a collapsing dam while explosives go off around them. Roman, Tej, and Han are on a plane with Ramsey when it gets shot out of the sky, leaving all 4 of their fates unclear. Letty and Cypher of all people end up stranded together in Antarctica, and standing in the snow right next to them is Giselle, alive and presumed dead since Fast and Furious 6. Then the credits roll, and Hobbs gets a threatening message from Dante in the post-credits scene. One detail that gets mixed up constantly online is worth setting straight here. Dante isn't after Dom or Brian for revenge. His father was Hernan Reyes, the corrupt businessman from Fast 5, and it was specifically Hobbs who killed him during that film's final act. That personal history is what's driving Dante's entire vendetta, which is exactly why so much of the unresolved business from Fast X actually belongs to Hobbs rather than to Dom. Here's my own read on where all of this is heading, with the budget getting squeezed this hard, and the spin-off that was supposed to help carry some of that story weight now stuck in limbo. The version of Fast Forever that makes the most sense is one that doesn't try to fully resolve Dante and Aimee on its own, leaning instead on a tighter, more contained conflict. As for how the whole saga should actually end, forget another giant CGI set piece with somebody punching a semi-truck off an overpass. Diesel has been explicit about wanting this franchise back on real streets doing real racing in Los Angeles, and the cleanest way to honor that promise is to close the whole thing out with an actual race. No gadgets, no globe-hopping spy plot, just Dom behind a wheel the way this all started back in 2001. Given how scattered the crew was left at the end of Fast X, with Dom and his kid cut off from everyone, the rest of the team split across continents, and people like Giselle turning up out of nowhere, there's also a strong case for spending the first half of this movie following different characters dealing with the fallout separately before they all physically end up in the same place for the finish. Diesel has actually described this script using words like artistic and unexpected, and has compared the whole thing to a road trip across America, which lines up with exactly that kind of structure.